Some of those are blue devil. I got the hoes like you have. I'll make it rain on whoever. I'll make it rain on whoever.
Welcome to the Blitz with Rob and Chris. Rob, what they do out there?
Man, listen. I don't know. I might have fooled around and caught that corona, man. I've been up in this house. Think something ain't right. Ain't smell nothing, can't taste nothing. Went and got the nose swab the other day, waiting for the results. Got the blood test. They told me I ain't got the antibodies. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was walking around here like the Terminator, couldn't be touched. But, you know, we got to see. Now we got to wait. I can't taste nothing, so we'll see.
That boy Rob had on that Creed mask running and shit. Thought he was immune. They got that Rudy Gobert corona. You heard?
I was wearing gloves. I was wearing masks, thinking I could go wherever I wanted, man. Something penetrated my mask. I don't know.
Look, we had a group Zoom call. Rob looked like he was on, you know, his last lifeline. Covers up to his neck, everything.
It really ain't been that bad. Like temperature wise, my temperature was like slightly elevated. It was still under 100 though. Cool. Yeah, it's really the not tasting anything I'm a little concerned about right now. If they tell me I am negative for COVID, I really don't know why I can't taste nothing.
Right. Look, if all them NBA athletes, you know what I'm saying, my man Rob bounced back. He's straight. You can get out there and play in a goddamn bubble. Let's go.
Right. If I had to play in a playoff game right now, I'm hooping. I'm ready.
You know what I'm saying? Look, that's the kind of you know, enthusiasm I want to see out of these players. All this questioning. You know, let's get out there and ball. Right. But look, I want to talk about this hat you got on. Morehouse man representing the M. You know, we got a lot of HBCU news to talk about for real. So what you think about, you know, McCurr Maker, 5-star athlete out of you know, top number 16 overall player in the ESPN 100, committing to Howard on this past week. First 5-star ever in the ESPN top 100 since they started in 2007 to commit to HBCU. So as a Morehouse man, what's your thoughts on, you know, him making that jump?
I mean, it was nice that he went to an HBCU, but he should have gone to the best HBCU. Let's just be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a hierarchy to things, right? And we are at the top. All right, Morehouse is at the top. I don't really know. I mean, I got a lot of friends who went to Howard, friends who went to Hampton, and of course, friends who went to Spelman. But there's an order to things. So you know, hats off to the young man for changing history. From a basketball perspective, I will say I have some slight concerns just given his size. He's 6'11". And so I feel like a lot of times big men are ranked high. He's the number, so depending on the recruiting service, between 16 and 18.
Right.
But at 6'11", a lot of those guys, they're ranked high because of their size.
Right.
And they're projected based on their potential. But they have a lot of growth in terms of their post game that they still need to do. And so I will say that I have some concerns about that. Like when you have a guard who's ranked like in the top like that, usually they're going to be one and done, and there's not much they're going to get from the school. They're going to just give to the school essentially.
Right.
But at 6'11", you know, you have concerns about will he get the training in the post that he needs, and then will the level of competition in the low post be sufficient to prepare him for the next level for that 1 year that he may only be there? Because, you know, let's face it, at the HBCUs, you know, a lot of your center is going to be 6'8", 6'9". You know what I'm saying? You're not going to get
6'4", 6'3".
You're not going to get a ton of. And I mean, at 6'11", he was going to be big at whatever school he went to,
right? Just
because of the way the game of basketball is played right now. But I'm happy to see it. Hope it starts a trend. I mean, realistically speaking, I think we've talked 2022 is probably the year when you're going to be able to jump straight to the NBA.
Right, exactly.
He's related to the other maker, Don Maker.
His cousin.
Cousin who went straight to the league. And so financially, he's probably straight, doesn't need the extra money. His cousin can probably hold him over for whatever he's not going to get from the HBCU that he would have going to a Duke or Kansas or whatnot.
So first, what I'll say is what was probably high on his priority list was co-eds. So that's why he didn't go to Morehouse.
He's gonna get some really good, sites.
Yeah. So
a lot of good parties.
So he wouldn't get that at Morehouse. So that's probably what we're waiting on.
Whoa. I need to make something clear. Morehouse is in the Atlanta University Center. We had Spelman, and Clark is also largely female. It's like 2/3 female, I believe. So
yeah. But what about that classroom?
They can cross register. They take classes with us, and you
all
can
right.
cross register over there.
Okay, all right. If you say so.
Don't do that. Don't hate on them.
But you brought up something that I want to talk about. So, I think the perfect storm hit in this situation, right? It's a kid whose cousin is in the NBA, so money is really not an option. His mom, if I'm not mistaken, went to Hampton, is a Hampton graduate. So he's got the HBCU, bloodlines where he has a parent who went there. And then it's basketball as well, right? So like you mentioned, it's a one and done type sport. Basketball, unlike baseball or football, is a sport, or soccer for that matter, is a sport where one man can ultimately, or one woman can ultimately impact the outcome of the game. You need a good team, but a great player can shift the balance of power. So from that perspective, I think basketball was the most realistic sport to have a player break down that barrier and commit to a HBCU over one of these predominantly white institutions that are known for basketball. Kentucky, Memphis, and I believe it was Kansas, maybe, or some other school was like his top four. But when we're talking about,
I think UCLA might have been the last one.
Okay, so when we talk about real powers, though, Zion Williamson has had this issue with did he take some money from an agent? Like when it gets down to it, we can't underestimate the power of money. And we know these schools, it's a lot of illegal recruiting. LSU was in some hot water with their coach, Wade Wilson.
Listen, you just watch the scheme. If you've seen
exactly
the scheme
on HBO.
Yeah, I mean, that FBI wiretap, you can hear all the conversations you need to hear to know what goes on.
Arizona.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're talking about, pockets, that definitely comes into play. But like I said, this guy had a bloodline. He, like you mentioned, money's not really an option. So I think it was the perfect storm. And I think, it could shift other kids' mindsets to maybe commit to HBCU. You do become the man, right? You are the center of attention. You get the program on your back.
On a campus with a lot of attractive young ladies.
Yeah, like, and like we mentioned, like one and done. So you're only gonna be there 1 year anyways.
Right.
What I think when I think about other sports, specifically football, I don't really see it happen. At least not soon. You're talking about the level of facilities, resources, coaches, and not just like, LSU has a better coach than somebody at HBCU, but they have a larger staff. So you have more assistants, you have more training staff, you have a nutritionist, a dietitian, like access to all these things. And then your level, like it's more of a team sport. So you need your team to be up to par. If you go play, running back in a SWAC and you're going against a LSU, a Texas, Notre Dame, your offensive line is not going to be physically able to handle their defensive line. So you start risking injury, you start risking production. And so that's where I think it comes into play in terms of other sports, specifically football, where you're not gonna see, I don't think in the near future that happen. But I am glad. I'm glad to just see the dude make some news, along with the Black Lives Matter movement. I think it all came to a head, and I think it's cool. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. Hopefully, Howard and they're not in the SWAC though. They're in
the MEAC with
the MEAC.
FAMU, Morgan State, bunch of schools like that. But it is D1. So, I was like joking about Morehouse. We were D2. So realistically speaking, that ain't never happening for us, right?
Right.
But the MEAC, FAMU, Morgan State, Bethune, Cookman, Norfolk State, some schools like that.
Right. So, I'm curious to see what happens.
Win your conference, and you at least going to get into that playing game for the NCAA tournament.
So look, while we talking about Howard, one of their rivals, right? They got who's the real HU with Hampton. Hampton just made a statement this past week that they're going all virtual. So they're canceling all fall sports. Morehouse hasn't made that jump yet. They're still going to have classes on campus as far as we know, but they've canceled all fall sports. So realistically, this guy's committed to Howard, but we're not even sure, they're in the same, Howard and Hampton and MEAC together. So if Hampton's not playing sports, what's coming down the pipeline? Have you heard anything about Morehouse?
I'm not sure that Hampton is in the MEAC. They may be in the Big South Conference. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But so with Morehouse, I will say when you're Division II, your budget is super small in comparison to D1 sports. When I was at Morehouse, I worked in the athletic department. I worked for the sports and information director. To be honest, like we were inside the basketball arena. And when you walked inside the basketball arena, you went into the offices. There were like 5 offices, and there were like 3 people working in the athletic department, and I was one of them. All right, and I was a student intern. All right, there was an athletic director. The athletic director was also a referee of SEC basketball. So, needless to say, he was on the road a lot during basketball season. So my point is, like, budget-wise, it was not very large. He just retired. So what you have right now is an interim athletic director. So I don't know that, you know, financially nor leadership-wise, they would have been in a position to try to do all this stuff that's going to be necessary to carry out a football season.
Right.
You know, all this testing that's going to be necessary week in and week out, and maybe day in and day out if you're practicing every day. You know, Ohio State did that letter where they had the kids sign this pledge. And the whole basis of the pledge is, I guess, to get the kids to agree to buy in, like, we're not going to go out. Because that's the biggest part of it. Like, if you have a roster, if you have 85 scholarship kids, and even 2 of them decide to go out to a party, they can ruin your entire season by coming back to practice and affecting everybody. And that's why daily testing is necessary. Or if they, not just them, right? What if one of your players has a girlfriend? So is she not going out for the entire football season? Well, what if she contracts it and she gives it to him? Now he gives it to the whole entire football team. So you need testing every day if you're going to be out there practicing. And realistically speaking, a Division II college football team is not going to have the funding to do something like that, not with a 5-person athletic department.
Right. And I mean, to be honest, like, I'm looking at LSU just had 30 players. Clemson had like 37 to 20, 27, something like that. You know, like you mentioned, like, you can't control not only the athletes, who they hang with, and then in a big athletic department where you have, you know, their own cafeteria, you don't know where the workers are at. And so that's why I just don't see a completed college football season. It's just too many unknown factors and too many people you can't control. I mean, we've had like 5 NBA facilities closed down. So, I mean, these are professional organizations with all the resources and all the money. And so it's just, I don't know, man. I just think it's going to come to a head at a certain point. I just think that it's so much money involved that you see these schools like LSU, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida forcing kids back because they have to have the students on campus to have the athletes playing. Because if they're going to hold on to the student athlete thing, you know, you got to have kids on campus in order to have athletes on campus and playing. But let's stay in college. I want to talk about a big issue that came up this past week. Mississippi State legislators voted to remove the Confederate battle emblem from the state flag on June 28th. But this was initiated by Mississippi State running back Colin Hill on June 22nd, where he tweeted he would no longer represent the state of Mississippi unless the Confederate battle emblem on the state flag was removed. 2 days after that, the head coach from Mississippi State, Mike Leach, and Ole Miss's Lane Kiffin, head coach, and other schools lobbied for the change in Jackson, Mississippi, at the state capitol. And so, with the initiation of the emblem being removed by Colin Hill, and then more support from other schools and then the head coaches, that got changed. And so, my question to you is, you know, are athletes starting to not only see their power, but use their power to make changes? And also, has the power balance shifted from the NCAA and the team and the universities to the players?
Yeah, I mean, I would say to a certain point, we talked about this a little bit before when Taj was on the podcast. Social media makes it such that there's no filter in between the player and the media. And I think that coaches should be scared of that to a large extent, because I'm sure so much goes on. I mean, we kind of joked about the scheme earlier and pay for play. I'm sure every player has stories about the coach just from the recruiting process, or all the coaches, even the ones that they didn't sign with. And so it just so happens that right now, and the way society is going, they're using it for social justice issues. And I really take my hat off to them, because, you know, these kids are putting their professional careers ultimately on the line to get things done that have needed to have been done a long time ago. Mississippi's governor was 2 weeks ago basically saying he didn't see this happening. And then all of a sudden you see Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin show up at the Capitol, and they're supporting the player. And, the NCAA is saying no tournaments. And all of a sudden things are getting signed. Flags are changing. So that's a tremendous show of power. And like we talked about before, I really just hope that it continues to happen, right? That it doesn't, that the momentum doesn't die down and the players don't go back to some subservient role. And with all of this power, though, comes a lot of responsibility. We talked about this off the pod a lot. Yeah. They got to make sure that they're always using it for the right issues. You know what I'm saying? Right. And not just kind of coming at every coach who they don't like.
Right, exactly. And I think too, what I think is happening is, the players are understanding and using their power, but I also feel like there's been a transition in the midst of this Black Lives Matter movement to just, not only Black lives, but just people who have been kind of, I don't want to say undervalued, but just kind of
marginalized,
oppressed. Yeah, marginalized, exactly, which I think many people associate that with NCAA athletes, because you're talking about billion-dollar business in which the workers are not getting paid, and all the money is going to the head coaches, the athletic directors, and to the administrations of these schools. And so I feel like fans are finally starting to be on the side of players.
Right.
In the past, I think fans were always for their universities and always for whatever it takes, like it's student athletes. And I think that power dynamic is shifting, and finally fans are starting to rally behind the players. And so I think that's where you see the narrative of like players speaking out is changing, and people and fans and media are behind the players and not the institutions. And so I see that as a major shift. And I'm hoping that, maybe it's a change to the NCAA as a whole. Like, it's a lot with the image and likeness is starting to change. So maybe in the future you'll see, because these coaches' salaries have become so inflated to where Nick Saban is making like $9 million. And you got players who are busting their ass every day. They're not getting the education that, people that think they are with the free education. We've been to school with these guys. Like, they're not a lot of them are just being put in classes to pass, to stay eligible. And so with that free education behind that gimmick, these players need to be compensated. And so I'm hoping that, the NCAA as a whole has changed throughout this process. So I'm curious to see. We're going to have Ben Jarvis Green Ellis on the pod next week, and he played at Ole Miss. And so we're going to get his take on what it was like playing at Ole Miss, being part of a team where the mascot was the Rebels, and then just being in the state of Mississippi with these things like the emblem on their flag. So, curious to see what he says next week. But
listen, if they do manage to get this college football season off, it is going to be a tremendous show of the value of these young men, such that, this argument that they don't deserve to be paid, you can't have it both ways. You're trying to get them back out on the field because you need the money so much for the universities, but then you also arguing that it's not professional sports, that they're amateurs, that you don't have money to pay them. It can't be both ways. You can't need the money and then also say that you don't have money to pay them.
Yeah, and especially when you got guys like Dame Lillard, which we have to get to the NBA. You got guys like Dame Lillard and Kyrie Irving talking about we shouldn't be playing. So if you got professional athletes making $25-30 million a year, how can you in good faith and with a conscience put out college kids who are not being compensated at all? And I don't consider a free college education compensated, not being compensated financially, monetarily. How can you, with a good conscience, put them out on the field? Like, that just makes absolutely no sense to me. But since, we mentioned the NBA, I want to talk about a few things. So, like, as I mentioned earlier, 5 facilities have been closed this week, in the past week, because they have like a rule: if more than one person tests positive in a building, you're going to shut down the facility. So Milwaukee Bucks were the most recent, but other teams include the Clippers, the Brooklyn Nets, the Denver Nuggets, and the Miami Heat. And so, you got all these people.
Everybody.
Yeah, the whole, that's damn near 6th of the league that's closed down. And so with the NBA starting scrimmages the last week of July in a bubble, Rob, will we see a complete NBA season? Will this restart happen and be completed?
To be honest, I think so. And the reason that I think so, though, is because I feel like I just feel like they're going to make it work. Yeah. I feel like they're going to slap duct tape on it. I feel like they might be suppressed positive tests. I mean, like when we talked to Taj on that previous podcast, he told us, right, that realistically speaking, the chances of these guys having any real, bad, symptoms or any long-term effects are fairly slim.
Right.
So there's a part of me that thinks that, like, listen, people might try to play through some stuff. If their team gets far enough, teams are going to be trying to suppress test results. I think there's just too much money and stuff involved in basketball for me to think that people are going to be like, let's just pack it in. And particularly just given how many people they've talked about who've tested positive for COVID but haven't actually shown any symptoms, makes me think that they're going to figure out a way to get it done.
Well, I'm just saying, my man Rudy Gobert said he still can't take shit. And he got it in March. So
should lose some weight then. Get on a real good diet. Because that's what I'm gonna do. If 3 weeks from now you talk to me and I still can't taste nothing, I'm gonna be eating salad and all the healthiest stuff that I've never eaten. I'm gonna cut sugar, bread, all of that. Like, what difference?
Well, I'm just saying, you
finally get some abs. Take them down to South Beach.
You better be on the 4-month plan because you might not be tasting nothing until new year, start a new year. So look, I mean, believe it or not, the NBA is not the first league that's going to go into a bubble. Major League Soccer is currently in a bubble in Orlando. They got down there this week, and the first game was supposed to be FC Dallas against Vancouver on Thursday. However, 4 players since arriving at the bubble have been tested positive for FC Dallas, and so the game is canceled. And the whole Dallas team is now on quarantine. And so I find that kind of, interesting, because what happens if 3 Lakers players, they're supposed to get tested 3 times a week? What if they don't, Monday they test negative, and then they have a game Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday they test again, and 4 Lakers are tested positive. Now does the whole team go on quarantine? And then if so, they don't play games for the next 2 weeks. And so I don't know legit. Like, I don't know if the league has thought about this. I don't know if we as fans have thought about this, but you can't go a 2-week period without a team like the Lakers playing. I don't think there's any way to logistically adjust the schedule for that amount of time. And then that's just the regular season, right? We're not even talking about if they get in the playoffs. Like, you can't have one team sit out for 2 weeks in the middle of the playoffs.
Well, I mean, that makes me, first of all, I'm about to call you out because you're always talking about how you don't want to hear nothing about baseball, but you just brought up soccer on this podcast, all right? But the point that I'm gonna make the point I'm gonna make about soccer is they must not have no money for testing.
They don't.
I think you gotta test after every practice, and realistically speaking, I think they gotta be socially distant until you get the results back, right? Like, so after every practice, we take a test, and then you go back to your room, and until we get the results, you can't come back together, right? That way, if somebody does now test positive and everybody else tests negative, arguably everybody else is good. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't know how none of this stuff works, but
I don't think
I'm assuming that that's how they're going to do it. Because if it's like you said, and one person tests positive and everybody who's been exposed to them has to quarantine, well, then the entire team is going to now be out. So I don't think that's a workable strategy. I think that the MLS must be going a couple of days between every test or something.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would have thought you would have tested before you even left to know,
Right.
But like you said,
if I'm basketball, I ain't letting you on a plane until I get a negative test.
Exactly, right. I'm not letting you around LeBron with a positive test.
Look at this guy. This is fucking bronze sexual over here.
Can't mess up my man legacy. That's all I'm saying,
Listen, I think I called it before the season started. Didn't I say Clippers and Bucks in the finals? I think I said that a long time ago.
Yeah. Listen, first of all, you're not going out on any, wild takes here, right? The Clippers and Bucks, like the 2 goddamn favorites. So let's stop it.
The Lakers are the 1 seed.
I'm just saying they got Kawhi and Paul George. You've been hyping Kawhi, so it's not like you going out on a limb here with that prediction. But I feel like I've talked to a couple people, and I'm kind of getting a sense of like Jordan fans or Jordan enthusiasts are rooting against this whole bubble thing because they don't want to see my man LeBron win his 4th ring, because that
Jordan fans and Kobe fans.
Yeah, that brings trouble to the legacy issue.
Right.
So I feel like it's starting to become people not just excited about watching basketball, but now it's like because I had a talk with somebody today was like, well, I don't know why LeBron's so excited, because if he wins, it won't be like it's really a real win. And I'm like, why not? Like, there's no home field advantage. You got to go through the playoff. I mean, just because they're doing this dumb.
Right, and he would have had he wouldn't have had home court in the finals if they played the Bucks, but he'd have had home court against everybody else.
Right, exactly. And so I don't see why. To me, it's a harder, I think, trek to take without getting the benefit of.
That's what Giannis Antetokounmpo said. The Greek Freak said, "If you win this year, it's like no asterisk." He said, "This is the most difficult finals that anybody will have ever."
I mean, unless you get into a situation where like they play the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George,
that's a whole different conversation. But if people are playing fully stocked, then the argument is, you took this long break. In addition to like losing home court advantage, there's a whole bunch of
right,
and so, also like the mental toughness issue to play in these arenas with no crowd, but still dial in and have the same level of intensity, understanding that this means just as much if there were 20,000 screaming fans.
Correct. And so, look, what about J.R. Smith? He signed with the Lakers.
Man, listen. The last time I saw J.R. Smith on the basketball, I know it wasn't the last time he played, but we all remember.
Last time you remember.
Yeah, the man took the ball and dribbled out at the end of the game and cost him the game, talking about he thought they were up. Yeah. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen. I just remember jumping up and down and screaming at the television. So am I super excited? To be honest, I think the biggest thing for me is defensively, he'll be able to bring something to the table. He's got length, and they're going to be playing against a backcourt that's got some length. I mean, you're going to have Beverly, Paul George, Lou Williams, and Kawhi Leonard. There's just a lot of guys, Landry Shamet. There's just a lot of guys that are going to need to be guarded back there, and they got another body. So I give him credit for that. And push comes to shove, he can shoot. But you're not necessarily replacing someone at the point guard position.
Right, so Avery Bradley, yeah.
Avery Bradley could bring the ball up and down the court in a situation where LeBron's on the bench. So you still are missing something. Look,
bro, I feel like with J.R. Smith and Deion Waiters, that's like new addition bringing back Bobby Brown. I mean, two of them. You know what I'm saying? That's destined for failure. Like I just
bring in Jamal Crawford, but they said defensively he doesn't bring anything to the table,
and neither does J.R. Smith. I mean,
he's got good length.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm pulling for the Lakers, so I hope it work out. But I'm not excited about, like you said, the last time we remember, and that was like 3 years ago. So he's 3 years older. Probably a little less athletic. And I mean, I don't know how reliable his jumper is. I mean, last I checked, he didn't really play the last season, the season that got postponed. So I'm not really sure what you're getting there. So we'll see, but I'm not super excited. Now we got we played this intro a while back from one of our pods. Lift Every Voice. Rob, you said growing up, you heard the Black National Anthem. I'm from New Orleans. Well, you never heard that shit before school.
I was, growing up in Brooklyn, we had a lot of school plays. I noticed we didn't really have that as much in New Orleans.
Yeah.
But like if every year your class had to do a school play, that was just a thing. And we had a lot of assemblies, and we used to do the Black National, and there was always a Black History play. There was a Thanksgiving play, there was a Christmas play, and the Black National Anthem was sung before all of them. That was just part of like life growing up. So
yeah, look, that's foreign to me, but I'm excited. I'm excited, and we talking about this because the NFL has announced that before every week one game in the NFL, they will be playing the Black National Anthem. So Rob, what you think about that? How you feel about that?
About time. But I feel like they need to be doing it every week. Like to be honest with you, the league is like, what did you say on the previous podcast? Almost 70% African American.
That's right. Yep.
And we talked about this. I mean, in the NBA, you play a game against a Canadian team, they sing the Canadian national anthem.
Right. Right.
I actually remember going to when I lived in New York as a kid, they had a World League football team called the New Jersey Knights. My dad took me to a game. They used to wear black and silver, I remember. And before the game, they played the Black National Anthem there too. Right. Now, that was crazy because the white fans started to boo the Black National Anthem.
That's sad.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's one of the 2 times in my entire life I saw my dad cry. It was both sports related. First, the other time was when Magic Johnson retired, and it was this time. And so, and I just think that he probably thought never in his wildest dreams did he think in his lifetime he'd have to see his child witness something like that? I was like 7 or 8 years old, so I didn't understand the gravity of the moment.
Right.
But for me, you know, it's all coming full circle. Like, sing the song, but I want to hear it sung every week. Like, I don't, you know, I don't see why they chose to do it week one.
Because it's the NFL, you know, NFL with 32 white owners and the whitest of the white damn commissioner. You know what I mean? They just don't get anything right. They never get shit right. Like, even when they try to do shit right, they can't get it right. I just, like you said, I mean, to me, playing it for 1 week and you're the sport that really kind of kicked up. I mean, really, NFL is why this movement has gotten so big, right? They blackball Kaepernick, who took a knee 4 years ago. Drew Brees, a star NFL quarterback, made the comments about the disrespect to the flag by kneeling. And that's kind of got all this momentum, got drummed up, really. So it's all, you know, kind of intertwined with the NFL. And for them to try to appease black fans, all fans who care about what's going on, that's what it is. It's just you're just appeasing us. Like, we're gonna play it before. It's like saying, okay, we're gonna play the Black National Anthem week one, so don't take a knee. And then if you don't take a knee week one, it don't really make sense.
I did hear some people say that they felt like if they could get out in front of the issue by doing that, it would keep all the players from walking out there and taking a knee.
Right.
Because now it's like, well, we're playing your song, so are you gonna take a knee to the
hell yeah
playing your song?
Y'all don't play the shit anyways.
Right. I just, you know, to me, if you're going to do it, you need to play it every week. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I'm tired of saying disingenuous. I feel like I say this shit every podcast, but this shit just.
Roger Goodell, he never gets it right. He just never gets it right. But I mean, that's part of that conversation about, like, when we just talk generally about professional work environments. When you don't have different perspectives in the room, you tend to get it wrong a lot.
Right. And I mean, you see all the things that are going on in the NBA with the players maybe being able to make a social justice stance with putting names on the back of their jerseys. Like, Adam Silver is constantly talking with Michelle Roberts, with Chris Paul, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, who's the black owner in the league. You know, constantly he's in the room, he's listening, he's talking, he's trying to get ideas. And it's clear that Roger Goodell is sitting up there with maybe Jerry Jones making all these decisions because they're just tone deaf in every, step of the way. And
he did the Tootsie slide at the draft.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that makes him down for the cause. But sticking to the NFL, right, going from the Black National Anthem, let's go to the other issue that's been in the works for 15 years, the Washington Redskins name change. That's picking up steam, likely because of the movement. Again, it's just another topic that while everybody's up in arms about what's going on in the country, it's another topic that's been on the, they've been discussing the Redskins, how offensive a name it is. And Daniel Snyder, the owner, has refused to change the name. And now, sponsors have stepped up. FedEx has threatened to, action or remove their name from the stadium where the Redskins play, which, mind you, I want to also add this because I don't want to give FedEx too much credit. They've been a sponsor for the stadium for over 5 years. So you've been a sponsor and you've allowed this shit to go on. So at this point, don't make it seem like you took some moral high ground. Like I don't, you just, trying to appease your customers, your employees as well. So I don't want to.
Nike also pulled the Redskins jerseys off of their website. I think all their apparel off their website.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So all right. So Rob, you're a Florida State fan. They're the Seminoles.
Oh, I don't do that.
No. I'm not comparing it. But what I'm saying is, like, there are other teams and organizations who have names related to giving honor to Native Americans. And so, like, as a fan of one of those teams, they're looking at a name change. Ron Rivera has stated that he's working with Snyder to change the name. What do you think they can do? Because obviously they're going to keep. I don't think they're going to change the logo with the season starting in 3 months, 2 months, whatever it is.
I mean, I'm hearing that they are. I'm hearing that they will be a different team name and different logo by the start of the season.
Wow.
I mean, that's going to cost them a lot of money, I would imagine.
That's what I'm saying, like, to get that on the shelf.
So they're probably going to have to keep the same colors and just change the logo. That way, I mean, because now you're talking about a helmet sticker, and I don't know if anywhere on their jerseys or pants they actually have that logo. But realistically speaking, I mean, you're gonna have to go throughout FedEx Field and change stuff. You're gonna have to make a lot of changes. I'll say this: I know as a Florida State fan, the Seminole Indians, the Seminole tribe, is well respected and they're honored, and they're included in every decision, any jersey change, any color change. The Seminole tribe is included in on that process. The Seminole tribe, a South Florida tribe, most notable for being unconquered. And so they actually never lost a war. They just basically took some further south land and stayed on that land, but they never actually, they were the one tribe that was never actually conquered. And so there's this strong bond there. Redskins, on the other hand, is quite simply put just a slur. It is not paying homage to any particular tribe. Like there's nothing to it, right? I think even the Cleveland Indians had an argument that there was a specific tribe that they were supposed to be associated with. But you know, there's other teams. I think the Aztecs.
You got the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, there's other organizations who pay homage to Native American tribes, and it's not necessarily called into question. I mean, I know even the Tomahawk Chop, that was called into question, and the Native American tribe, the Seminole tribe, so they were fine with that. The Redskins, none of that. It's just a racial slur. It's the most offensive thing in sports, to be quite honest with you. And so my understanding is that will be changed. I just read Adam Schefter just did a little brief thing on SportsCenter just probably about an hour ago, and said that, you know, his understanding is that by the start of the season that they will have a new logo. So how all of that is going to take place, I don't really know, but I think it's more than due.
Yeah, and I mean, Rivera mentioned that it seemed like they were going to stick to trying to honor Native Americans in some way. So I don't envision them kind of getting out of that realm when you talk about mascots. But where they go, and if they get the support of a tribe, you know, it'll be interesting on it's what, beginning of July, and practice starts end of this month. So season starts first week in September. So it'll be interesting to see. And then they had breaking news tonight that came out that 3 minority owners for the Redskins are looking to sell stake in the Redskins team. Robert Rothman, Dwight Shaw, and Frederick W. Schmidt, which combined own about 40% of the team, came out today and said they're not happy with being a partner with Daniel Snyder and have hired an investment banking firm to identify possible suitors. I don't know a lot about these 3 guys. It just seems very odd that they're coming out and saying that they're not happy about their relationship with Snyder post coming out this week and changing, you know, committing to likely to change the name of the mascot, you know, from Redskins to something else. So it just seems like it's kind of close to that happening, and for them backing out and they're owning 40% of the team, you know, it seems like that may be the reason why. But while I'm good riddance to them, if that's the reason, this is a prime opportunity for the NFL to open up that ownership stake to an African American, I think.
Do I need to say it? I need to say it again? Just Jay-Z time, baby.
I was saying, look,
Jigga man, 35, 40% ownership share?
40%.
40%. Get him on the line. I think I saw that it was that Snyder bought the team back in '99 for like $800 million. I'm sure it's worth way more than that now.
Right. At least probably like $2 billion, I would imagine.
So those other that 40% share is going to require a lot. Listen, he married to Beyonce. I mean, call Oprah, call Diddy, call who you ever need to call.
Right. Call LeBron.
I mean, the one thing I will say is I think Dan Snyder is a little James Dolan-esque. James Dolan being the Knicks owner, in that like people just don't like them. They make poor business decisions. They tend to overspend in free agency and get too actively involved in the ownership of the team. So I will say that I'll be a little worried for this to be the team that an African American gets some ownership interest in, because the Redskins just ain't never won under Daniel Snyder.
Right. I agree. I just think that if not now, when? And is there not a better team coming off of, like you said it, the most offensive name in sports? They need some positive news out of Washington. The NFL needs to show they're being progressive, other than giving us the Black National Anthem for a week. And so, with Jay-Z coming on board last year, it's obvious he wants to be an owner. Like 40% of the team is a lot. If he got the money,
what he owned for the
right? What it was like 3% in Brooklyn.
Might have been two.
I mean, to me, that's a stepping stone to a future majority owner somewhere else. If I don't know if most people are aware, but the owner for Jerry Richardson, who was the former owner of the Carolina Panthers, who was forced to sell his stake due to some allegations and some mistreatment of employees, sexual assault allegations in Carolina, was forced to sell. He sold to a minority owner in Pittsburgh. I can't think of the gentleman's name right now, but my point is that minority ownership can quickly turn, get your foot in the door and create, the income, the capital to be able to become a majority owner in the future. So, like I said, if not now, when? And if not, who else would be a better start? So I think this could be the stepping stone. I'm hoping it happens. But let's go to some other NFL news. The Hall of Fame game was canceled, and the induction ceremony was also canceled. And the NFL came back and told the players we'd like to reduce preseason to 2 games. And now the players are saying, NFLPA is saying, you know what, we could do without all the preseason as far as we're concerned. And so, I got some feelings on that, but I want to get your thoughts first.
The funny thing is that was posted, and then the Saints rookie backup quarterback Tommy Stevens posted, like, yeah, now we can't do without the preseason. Like, he cracked some type of joke, essentially, like, we need some preseason games. I mean, you're talking about a roster that's got 4 quarterbacks on it.
Right.
If we don't get any preseason, he's as good as cut practice squad at best. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, but that's just a microcosm of the issue, right? Like, there's going to be tons of players who every year, you got these cuts. You go from 90 down to 53. You talking about so many guys who play 4 years, 5 years, 6 years of college football,
right?
If they suffered injuries, just to get to this one moment to see if they could be the next Victor Cruz, the next, Marcus Colston, or throw in any 6th, 7th undrafted free agent, 6th, 7th round pick undrafted free agent who ends up making a team and becoming a Pro Bowler or a notable piece. All these guys live for this moment. And if you eliminate essentially training camp in a lot of ways,
right,
and all of the preseason, you're basically coming in with the roster you had from last year. Now, we Saints fans, that's good for us.
Exactly.
We had a younger team a few years ago, but now, a lot of our roster, I think we talked about this previously, we probably only have like 4 spots that are open to any type of controversy anyway for that 53-man roster. But for some of these younger teams, the Redskins, for example, for teams like that, you know what I'm saying, where you're still trying to figure out what's going on at the quarterback position.
Young quarterback, yep.
First pick overall, what's he going to do? He's got to learn the defense. For teams like that, this is not good. How you install offenses and defenses with no preseason?
I want to know who's behind this with the NFL Players Association. Like, is this DeMaurice Smith? Does he have some players that are speaking to him? Because, if you're Drew Brees, like you mentioned, or, like established teams, Ezekiel Elliott, guys who don't need, know the offense, know the system, know the league. It makes sense, right? You don't want to have to go through preseason. But my response to that is those guys aren't playing in a preseason anyways. Right. So to me, it's like, is there another, when is the other foot going to drop? Like, do the NFL Players Association have some kind of behind no preseason, they want additional roster spots? Because then it makes sense to get more guys. But I can't see the majority of players not wanting preseason because, the top 25, 30 guys, they're solidified. But, player 40 through 53, you got 75-man roster, preseason rosters, like they want preseason. And frankly, I think the league needs preseason because injuries. How stadium's going to account for parking, concessions, people entering and exiting the building. Like you need preseason to funnel out all that stuff, because if you're talking about limited fans or all your fans, but you can't have them all coming through 2 and 3 exits. Like you need to figure out ways how concessions work. The bathroom lines in the Superdome be like 40 people at halftime.
Let's be honest. I'm gonna tell you what it feels like. It feels like we delaying the inevitable. And it feels like the inevitable is the season ain't starting with the days on the calendar.
Right.
It feels like they gonna start just like with anything else. They're gonna keep pushing it back and then saying, "Okay, we'll start here. Okay, we'll start here."
Right.
And realistically, they have a little bit of time bought because of basketball. So people will be watching basketball anyway. And realistically, do you want to start your season competing with playoff basketball? The real question is, like, we don't have a vaccine. So there's, for the foreseeable future, there is no known change that's going to come to our circumstances. Right. We also don't know that the antibodies last that long. So even if everybody on your football team tests positive, we don't know how long it would be before they're capable of testing positive again. So there's really no fix to any of this.
Nope.
But here, I heard first that they canceled 2 preseason games.
Right.
Now, like you said, I'm hearing they want to cancel the whole thing. None of that really sounds feasible. To me, that just sounds like the start date of the season is ultimately going to be pushed back. But like you said, it just makes me start to think lack of leadership. Like, what are DeMaurice Smith and Roger Goodell, what kind of conversations are they having? Like, just don't say anything until you have a full plan.
Because we know, right? We play football, whether you're talking about practice, preseason. If you don't have any preseason games, you still got to have 17 regular season weeks and 4 weeks of playoffs. So what the hell 2 preseason getting rid of that is going to do? Right. I mean, it's not
like that. You hoping that people don't test positive? What those say?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
During those 2 weeks, going to test positive week 1 of the season.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, on a practice field, you go sweating and bleeding and spitting and perspiring, like all that shit. When you tackling somebody, there's no way in football to avoid contact. So if you don't practice, if you don't have preseason, what the hell is the regular season going to even look like? I mean, it's going to be garbage football. And at that point, it's like the product suffers. And if you're trying to delay it that much, then you're not going to get too far in the regular season if you worried about 2 preseason games and how that might impact the season as a whole. So, I think they're going, at some point, you just got to get the shit going. And I think everybody needs that time, needs some preseason to figure out logistics in a stadium and all the rest of that. But last thing with the NFL, along with the preseason issue, there's some potential rules for this season regarding COVID-19. The first one is players could be fined for conduct detrimental if they're found to have engaged in reckless, in quotations, behavior away from the team facility, such as eating out in restaurants and using ride-sharing services like Uber and Lyft. And the second one is the league and union medical personnel are making protective face shields that could be worn while playing, practicing, working out, and moving around in team facilities. And so in both scenarios, as we've mentioned already, it just seems that the NFL doesn't have a clue what the hell they're doing and why they're making certain decisions. So to the point about reckless behavior, we've already seen it doesn't take reckless behavior to get this. So you could have somebody in a team personnel working in the cafeteria or somewhere else in the building with COVID and not know it. And so there's no guarantee that a player got COVID being out at a restaurant. So if I can't sue my school or my business or my team because I contracted the virus, I can't prove that I contracted the virus in their facility. How can you possibly fine me without being able to prove that? And you might be able to speak to this more as a lawyer. How can you prove that just because I went out to eat at a restaurant and I ate outside that I contracted it there?
Yeah, no, I think they're just going to have a hard line rule that you can't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit crazier because now you're talking about for the length of a 17-week season and even more if you go into the playoffs, that they're not allowed to do things that normal people do.
Right.
Because it ups the chance that they test positive. I mean,
what you going to have a private investigator following them?
I mean, a lot of these teams already have that, but like they don't have it to the extent that they could follow 53 guys around.
Right.
And then all the assistant coaches. And I mean, think about how many people on the NFL side.
That's what I'm saying, right?
All the ball boys and all of those people now are subject to all of these rules because they can be the one who affects everybody at a game, right? The ball boy could literally infect the sideline, which then gets all the referees, the other team. And I mean, this is a complicated issue.
And to your point, I mean, like if I'm a player, well, you better make sure the coach not going nowhere. The trainer not going, the ball, like it ain't just me. So,
and so many off-season injuries in football. So a lot of times guys want to go to their own doctors for opinions, and there's just a lot to this.
And then I don't know if you've seen the mock. I've seen the mock of the helmet with the face shield, and it essentially looks like a NASCAR helmet, like a driving helmet with like a visor. And we played high school football, right? And I played with a visor for a couple games. And that shit fogged up in the first 5 minutes. And that's just with a visor. Now, if you add a whole face shield, I mean, you got NASCAR drivers that got oxygen being pumped into the car. Like anybody who's ever played football, you can't have all that on your face while playing football and running full speed and jumping on the ground, tackling, diving. Like it's just not enough airflow. And players have complained about like they're pushing back on that. Because they're worried about.
Yeah, I mean, and also they won't have there's no lead time. Like they haven't received it. They should, if that really was going to happen, they need to be working out in the off season with this stuff already. But they're just going to show up. I mean, it's already July. Like what they're just going to show up in 2 months with new state of the art helmets that they're going to all of a sudden wear for the season. Like we're so close to the beginning of the season for all this stuff to just now be being discussed. When the reality is, like the NFL has had a lot of time to think about all of this.
Mid-March.
Right.
Mid-March. So
what have they been discussing?
And let's not forget, Goodell's making $45 million. So why? I do not know. But we'll leave it at that. We had a lot of bashing on NFL, so we'll keep it moving. But something big.
All love if our Saints win the Super Bowl, though.
Right. I'll take all that for a Super Bowl win. But if we get to the Super Bowl. But, we talked a lot about NASCAR with Bubba Wallace promoting Black Lives Matter movement on his car. They had the noose found in a garage a couple of weeks back. We kind of discussed last week in length. And now you've got a driver to debut Trump 2020, or actually debuted it today, Trump 2020 race car at the Brickyard 400. The driver's named Corey LaJoie, I believe is how you pronounce it. And he just struck a partnership between his racing team and a political action committee that's supporting Trump. So, I mean, I can't help but think this is kind of a response. This NASCAR showing its true color. Then I won't put it on NASCAR, but the people involved, the racers involved, the fans involved in NASCAR, trying to push back on what's going on. With
I mean, you had the plane that flew above. I don't know. What did the plane say when the plane flew above?
Just because you're asking me, I just
right. You had the Blue Lives Matter car,
mm-hmm.
And now you have the Trump 2020 car. You have the
garage
that's not supposed to be the noose. So I mean, it's not a good look for NASCAR. I mean, I know that this was all this big effort to diversify the sport and bring other people in, make them feel welcome, but a lot of the drivers and the people who are a part of the sport don't seem to care for that, right? And I get it, right? Black Lives Matter is a hashtag. It's a statement, but it's also the title of a political organization. So the argument would be that because Bubba Wallace did it, why would you question me doing it? But I will say that I don't know that Bubba Wallace got any funding from the Black Lives Matter political organization.
To my knowledge.
So that would be a little bit different to me. But it is what it is. It's NASCAR just ain't changed yet. It's gonna be. You know what I'm saying?
It's gonna be a long time. They've been one way for long. I mean, I heard they've been selling out of like Confederate paraphernalia, and outside the stadium, and so the race events. So I think it's just a big FU to the people trying to change. And like we mentioned, they hired a new diversity leader, and he's got his work cut out.
Right.
He got his work cut out. So we'll see. And the last thing I want to touch on was, we talked a lot about Major League Baseball. They came back with this 60-game plan. But now, players were hashtagging when and where when Rob Manfred, the commissioner, came out. Manfred said, I don't see a season happening. And they all hashtag when and where we're going to show up. And so they struck a deal, 60 games, came to an agreement on the salaries. And now you got some of the biggest stars backing out. Ryan Zimmerman, and now most recently, David Price, along with others, have backed out, saying, concerns of Corona. And again, we talk about these athletes who, I'm not questioning anybody's love for the game, but you came out, you the players came out and said, when and where, let's go, we want to play. And now you playing, and frankly, I feel like baseball is one of those sports where the guys make so much money, and they've made, and a lot of these guys have made tons of money. They're in a position where they feel like, I don't need to play, maybe one for health, but also in a 60-game season in a sport that's built for records, built on records. I feel part of me feels like they're thinking about their stats and how that could be impacted in this shortened season.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. David Price ain't no big star. Baseball's not gonna miss him. I ain't really that worried about Ryan Zimmerman either. Listen, man, just get my Yankees to the ship, man. Get my Yankees to October, and let's make it do what it do. We got Garrett Cole. I don't know if you saw my boy Tanaka got busted in the face for a line drive from Giancarlo Stanton. So get well soon, Tanaka. But look, this is our year, and I'm really not concerned about anybody else, what anybody else is doing, what they got going on. This is the Yankees' year. So listen, if everybody else got to drop out, go ahead. Because
sound like a desperate Yankees fan over there.
Predetermined is our year.
Even my boy Mike Trout, starting to come up with he must not be confident in his team because he's especially got records on the line. So I don't know with him talking about. I'm like, man, what's going on, baseball? I'll tell you this. They need to have something on because I can't watch much more Korean baseball. I'm sorry. I appreciate them dudes playing and everything, but they started
only like 3 weeks away.
I know. I'm excited.
Weeks away. So,
and I saw in the paper in New Orleans today, the Pelicans got like 4 scrimmages lined up for the week of July 22nd. So it's getting close. It's getting close. And I can't watch much more ESPN until they got some real sports because them dudes, it's hard. It's hard to talk about it without.
Look at us.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we got Stephen A calling out basketball players for their sex drive too high. They can't go 3 weeks without it. So I'm like, yeah, they're desperate. They're getting desperate on you on first take. They ain't got nothing to talk about.
Right.
But that's it, man. We're gonna wrap it up. Anything to say before we get out of here?
Man, shout out to my little cousin. Just found out Lumumba Jr. Lumumba Howard Jr. committed to play Temple at Temple next year, Temple football, and they got University of Miami, the Canes. So if there's any reason that I'm really hoping that college football is played next year, it's for that. So I can get up there to Hard Rock Stadium. He's gonna be a true freshman, so maybe get him on the kickoff team or something. He plays linebacker. So he's a thumper. So I could easily see him being on the kickoff coverage team. So I need college football season to happen so I can get up there for that game.
Temple Owls, bro. I'm going to check them out. They play. I know they're in the same conference as Tulane, so I don't know if they play in New Orleans, but if they do, I'm going to definitely check them out.
Halloween night, I think they play Tulane.
Okay. I'm going to go trick or treat, then go catch me a game.
There you go.
But I mean, listen, that's all we got today. Next week, like I mentioned, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis going to join the pod, so we're looking forward to that. But other than that, man, y'all be safe. We out here.
We'll talk some Cam Newton, Bill Belichick, Brady, all of that. He's going to deliver us the inside information.
Yes, exactly. He also played under Ed Ogeron, who was national championship coach.
That don't mean nothing to me or the people listening on 979 The Plug Radio.
Boy, hey, that's all right. We're going to catch y'all.
We out of here.
Later.